If you want to live a life you've never lived, you have to do things that you've never done. And I'm not just talking about the physical actions that you take to get you from point A to point B. I'm also talking about what's going on up here. Think back to a time where you felt like you were doing all the right things. Everything looked good on paper. You were checking off all the boxes. But no matter what you did or how hard you tried, you still were not able to get yourself from point A to point B. You can be taking all the right actions or all the right steps to live a life that you've never lived before. But if you're doing so from a limited place, meaning if you're constantly holding on to bad experiences, saying things like, oh, that could never be me though, or why does nothing ever work out for me? How come everything is so difficult? Things can never just be that easy. When you are holding on to those things that don't serve you, you are operating from a version of yourself that essentially doesn't serve you either. So all the right actions or all the right steps you take aren't going to get you very far until you actually decide that they will. Until you decide that you're worthy and deserving of that thing that you want to have, until you decide that you're good enough, until you decide that those bad experiences or all the limitations or the old conditioning or things that you unconsciously compare yourself to out in society, until you decide that that is not a part of who you are anymore, that's when you finally get to experience something in your life that you've never experienced before. I know people joke all the time about, oh, who's in charge of my simulation? Tell me who's in charge. Tell me what I have to do. What are you going to throw at me next? People like to think that life is happening to them, right? But life is not happening to us. Life is actually happening as us. As within, so without. Life is a big mirror. It is a big reflection of who you are and what you know to be true about yourself. What you know you deserve. What you know that you are worthy of. If someone desires a life of success in their career, they'll do everything they can to climb the ladder and reach that level of success. But what happens if you reach that level of success? A lot of the time people will say, yeah, but I'm still lonely. It's lonely at the top. Yeah, but I still don't feel fulfilled. I still don't feel as successful as I want to feel. So they went out and did all the things that they've never done before in order to have something that they've never had before. But in the end, they still ended up feeling unsatisfied or unfulfilled or whatever it was. Because it's never about anything that is physical. It's never about the thing that you actually want to obtain. It's about who you're being as you're going to obtain that thing. If you're constantly climbing the ladder to success, for example, but you don't feel like you're worthy and deserving of success, you can achieve the greatest amount of success in the world and still feel like it's not enough. Why? Because you don't feel like you deserve it. So part of the you have to do things you've never done also includes letting go of the things that don't serve you. Let me give you a different perspective real quick. Let's say that you've been to your best friend's house a dozen times. You know exactly where they live. You know exactly how to get there from your house. So whenever you tell your bestie, hey, I'm coming over, you just hop in the car and you drive and go over there. No questions asked. You don't doubt yourself. You don't think, oh my God, am I going to get lost? You don't think that, right? It's not like the first time you went over to your friend's house and you were like, okay, let me plug it into the GPS. Let me plan this out. I want to make sure I get there on time. You don't worry about any of that because now you know where they live. So that is a part of you. It's who you are. You're like, yes, I know where my best friend lives. That is something that, for the sake of example, we could just classify as a positive experience in our life. But let's compare that to the opposite. Let's say growing up as a child, you never felt worthy and deserving. You felt like everything you did, it just wasn't good enough. And so in your career, you see yourself reaching the top. You see yourself reaching a certain level of success, but you feel like it's hard to get there because people critique your work all the time. They say, okay, but why did you do it like that? You should have done it like this. This would have been easier. And instead of taking that as feedback and being like, you know what? Yeah, let me try what they said. Your brain is automatically going to take that as a threat. You're going to automatically, unconsciously assume or confirm, actually, see, I know I'm not good enough. No one thinks I'm good enough. Your brain distorts everything based on your past experiences and the things that you know to be true about yourself. But you see how those two examples, the mechanics behind it are exactly the same. You want to go over to your best friend's house? Okay, you hop in the car, you go over there because that is your autopilot. You already know where your friend lives and you don't have to worry about how to get there. And on the other hand, You know and believe that you're not worthy or you're not good enough to reach a certain level of success in your career. So that's your autopilot. Anything that you do in your job is never going to look or appear good enough for you or to your brain because that is how you run. You're essentially not even afraid of not being good enough at this point. You're comfortable with not feeling good enough. You're more uncomfortable to say, hey, no, this work, this is good enough. That is more uncomfortable for you to think or say because that is not your autopilot in that situation. Now, the thing that keeps people stuck a lot of the time is not realizing that they can change their autopilot. This goes back to my previous video. You need to essentially train your brain with a new autopilot. And again, that's part of the doing things you've never done in order to live a life you've never lived. And the way to do that isn't to think or overthink more, it's to actually think less. Think less and start making decisions as the version of you that you actually want to be. And this isn't thinking hypothetically. This is you doing what's called an identity shift. If you're wanting success in your career, but you don't feel worthy and deserving of that success, that is your identity. Take the time today to really ask yourself, what is it that I want? First of all, get very clear on that. What do you want? And then ask yourself, what is one thing that I could do today, no matter how big or small, that version of me who has what I want would do? And then here's the hardest part. You have to go out and do it. But again, don't do it from a limited version of yourself. Make decisions and take steps forward as your ideal self. Whenever I catch myself struggling with this, I always like to remember that if there is a problem in your life, you can never solve that problem from a state of conscious awareness in which that problem originated from. You need to broaden your awareness, step out of the box. If you don't step out of the box, you can't see things in a different way. And if you can't see things in a different way, you're never going to think that things are possible for you. So if you want to live a life you've never lived, you have to do things as the person who has already lived it. I love you so much. I will see you in the next one.